Right, the start of 2022 and Celtic scored 2 tonight against Hibernian to get 3 points and narrow the gap to 3 points at the top of the Scottish Premiership. David, not enough of a smile for me, mate, after that, because that was pretty good.
That's exactly what I said I was hoping for, Hamish. And when we spoke to Scott McDonald last week, it was dominant, it was controlled, it was powerful, and it was exciting. And it was 3 points. So, this is as much a smile as you're going to get. I'm not much of a beamer, but delighted. I thought that was a brilliant start to the year. I really did. Superb.
So I was just chatting to Stevie of this parish, and he wants me to point out straight away that he called 2-0 and Maeda to score a goal, maybe even the opening goal on the video we did from Celtic Park the other day. So a wee bit of recognition for Stevie straight away.
Oh, I'm sure he's the only one that picked Maeda to score first tonight. Fair play to him. 2-0 as well. Spot on.
Right, give me the thoughts then when you saw the team this evening, because I think a lot of people had kind of pinpointed Hatate and Maeda to start the match. It was rubber stamped about 6:30. What else was the kind of major talking points? I suppose for me, a lot of the attention was on who started the game, and especially Hatate and Maeda getting their Celtic debuts. But I thought the fact the bench was so strong tonight was a major talking point. That's the strongest the bench has been in a good while. We had Jota back on it, Giakoumakis was back on it. From memory, Mikey Johnson was there, Gucci was there. We had Liam Scales and lots of options to try and change the game. I think it's a good sign. I mean, you consider the likes of David Turnbull, Kyogo, Nir Beaton, Christopher Julian are still to come back. I think it's probably fair to say the strongest the squad has been since Ange came in.
Absolutely, it's funny. We've been saying it in recent videos about the need to not totally go overboard on this idea that we need 5, 6, 7 players. I was never actually sure we did. There's still a couple of positions I had maybe tweaked, but that's for another day. In terms of how the squad looked tonight, so strong. It was so strong. Real good players on the bench, players that will make a big impact at domestic level at the very least. In terms of starting lineup, listen, you've got Hatate and Maeda, and that caught your eye. That's what made you excited for this game tonight. Was really pleased to see Forrest back available in the team. I know, he's got a bit of a mixed reputation amongst the support. Some are a bit annoyed about his consistency at times, but just having him available when he's on it, he's fantastic. He really is. He's such a goal threat, and I don't think you realise it till he's out as well. But yeah, it's just like you're saying, Hamish, there's options all over the pitch now, and then you're suddenly thinking to yourself, hold on, maybe Celtic are spot on to turn around and say, we're all right here. We don't really need any more signs unless something extraordinary comes up. And if that squad doesn't have another major injury crisis like the ridiculous losses we suffered in the first part of the season, they're going to cause a lot of teams bother, Hamish. They really are, and I think they're going to go right to the wire for this league title. I thought that was fantastic tonight, and it gets you so excited for the fixtures coming up as well. You look at Hearts at Tynecastle, you look at Rangers at Celtic Park, and you're saying bring it on now.
Well, you're putting words into my mouth, but I certainly feel that way. Where were you when Dyson Maeda scored his first goal for Celtic? I feel like that's something we may be saying in years to come, because, I mean, first of all, can you remember a Celtic player scoring so early into his career? Barry Robson's possibly the only one that springs to mind. Maybe Jan Vennegoor of Hesselink in the game against Hibs at home that me and Stevie talked about. I don't know how many minutes that was. But, I mean, 4 minutes into your Scottish football career, your Celtic career, and you notch your first goal. Have some of that, Kyogo.
Oh, absolutely. Where was I was turning the internet off and on again, Hamish, because my Wi-Fi was playing up at the start.
Did you miss it?
So I missed the opener. I missed it live. I caught Nisbet hitting the post, so I caught that, and then I went to turn the internet off and on, and they were showing the replays of the goal. So I didn't get that raw emotion at the moment, which I was raging about. I thought to myself, never mind, that boy's going to score a hat-trick tonight anyway. Didn't quite come to fruition in that sense, but fantastic debut for him. And how good was Rio Hatate, by the way? I mean, that was... I can't remember a better debut than that, Hamish. No, I expect them to be creative. I expect them to have talent. I expect them to be fairly dynamic, considering his reputation from Japan. But the way he was blitzing past Hibs players as if they were amateur footballers.
Low centre of gravity.
That's the phrase, isn't it? The low centre of gravity stuff. Some of his passing, outrageous, particularly in the first half. So I thought there were times where he was always looking for me to play the first time ball when you were thinking, just calm down a wee bit. Doesn't he always have to be first time? But he was so excited to be out there. I think you could see that from his game, and it was such a mature performance from him. He for me was by far the man of the match.
But that's what we heard about Hatate from the interviews when we had Sam on the channel. The key point that he kept making was, Celtic have been looking for a guy to find those passes to Kyogo mainly when he's making the runs. When fans in the stadium see the pass and for whatever reason it just doesn't come. And Sam said, numerous times in our interview, Hatate could be the guy. I think it's even pretty much the title of the video. If you go and look at something like, Hatate and Kyogo could form a brilliant partnership, because Hatate will look for that ball early. And the amount of times he played a first-time ball today, and for all that we love Callum McGregor, and Callum McGregor was excellent tonight, and he's probably our most important player. And, David Turnbull, I think, is an absolute star. And Tom Rogic is, one of my favourite Celtic players ever. I think Hatate showed us something different tonight that even those three don't, and that I think he arguably has better vision than those three. I think you could tell that already tonight, and he didn't really pull any of his, first time forward balls off. He had a couple that were just intercepted by the Hibs defender, but for a debut, he was just absolutely brilliant. His vision was great. The thing that I was really surprised with, and I'll get your thoughts if there was anything you were surprised about Hatate, but for me, his engine, I kind of wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a guy to be neat and tidy in possession and move the ball and take care of the ball. We'd seen clips of that, and that's what he was. But his engine, tracking back, there was 3 or 4 minutes into the game when he tracked Martin Boyle back about 60 yards, and he was quick as well. And I didn't expect that from him tonight. Was there anything in his game that kind of surprised you when you were watching him?
Yeah, I expected a more attack-minded player. For me, he looked a lot more box to box. He was. Yeah. And I think for you, you're right. It comes from that engine. He was just constantly looking to do some hard grafting for the team. I thought we saw some signs of. He's played defensive midfield in the past as well. We saw some signs of his comfortability in that area as well when he was retreating further back to try and help retain possession and get us out of tight areas. For me, it was just his composure on the night that surprised me. I thought there might have been a few nerves. I thought there might have been a few loose passes. Well, okay, maybe there was 1 or 2, but nothing that you'd say was notable or out of the ordinary. But I suppose. What surprised me, just everything about the impact. It was so exciting. I can't wait to see how his game develops here. I can't wait to see him perform at these away grounds when teams are going to be even more attacking than what Hibs were tonight. And to be honest, I didn't think the approach Hibs had was negative or anything like that. I just think they could barely get out their own half. We weren't giving them a shot of possession. But yeah, in terms of Hatate, superb. But he's just set the bar with that. I did not expect a performance anywhere near that level. Maybe through ignorance, I've not seen enough of him, but he was sublime.
And the thing you've got to remember, and it goes for Maeda as well, because, those were the two that started tonight of the Japanese trio that we signed. The build-up, the fact these players have been built up so much by the support, it's all that Celtic fans have really spoken about for the last 3 weeks, along with Jota. And these guys came tonight, and Ange has spoken, and we want to treat the guys, on their own merits as being their own players, and we're going to do our best on the channel and the website to do that. But, collectively, these guys have come across the planet as new signings with, hype around them that I can't remember hype around this about any Celtic signing in a long, long time. And on their debut, one of them has got man of the match, and the other has scored a goal after 4 minutes. It quite simply couldn't have gone much better for these guys. And Idiguchi, I thought, came on and looked really good as well. He looked really alert, really tidy in possession as well. What about Maeda? We've kind of touched on Maeda already. was there anything that surprised you about Maeda's game tonight?
But his pressing was non-stop. I thought he'd maybe conserve some of his energy as longer the game went on, but he never really looked very interested in conserving anything. He was everywhere in that final third. I loved it because it shocked Hibs. It really did. They didn't know a lot about Maeda, and I think the way he played, it really set the tone for how we pressed Hibs. Got his goal, which was deserved, and I think the longer the game went on, I think our attacking play did wane, as you would expect, considering how we started the game and how the first half went. But for me, it was just that high intensity, non-stop pressing. I absolutely loved it, and it gets the supporters off their seats early on as well. That atmosphere tonight, it never lowered, certainly in the first half. They were absolutely feeding off that pressing in the final third. And Hibs couldn't do anything about it. Hibs didn't have the quality to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of that did come from how Maeda approached the game himself. But, it wasn't just the Japanese boys that impressed me tonight. Hamish got a few others.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come on to them. For me, the fact that Maeda was so willing to put himself about and to get his head in where it hurt. The first thing he did, I think about 5 or 6 seconds into the match, was stick his head in, in a really dangerous area, and the Hibs centre-back actually had a real high foot, and that just set the tone for me straight away for Maeda. He is a player, and I think whenever you sign a player from, so far away, there's always a tendency for people to jump into stereotypes. Will he be able to mix it? Will he struggle with the,
will he be strong enough,
the physicality of the Scottish game? Maeda will have absolutely no problem in that regard because he gets right stuck in. He's really, really strong. He's obviously quick. We know that. He's obviously got, really good stamina and engine. He gets involved. But that was the thing that kind of surprised me today. We hear loads about these signings. We try and get an insight on them on the channel, but it sometimes takes actually watching them. And the thing for me tonight was Maeda getting his head in there when it really hurt. And he probably took a few knocks tonight, but I thought he was excellent. But just like Hatate, I think there's far more to come from him. Maeda got the opening goal. The second goal, if we touch on that, Juranovic just looks so assured every time he takes a penalty. A point I wanted to raise that people, watching this won't have, been able to see, possibly if they weren't at the game. While Juranovic is taking the penalty, just before that, Callum McGregor and Rio Hatate are deep in conversation for about 30 seconds before the penalty's taken. And I thought that was a really positive sign. It was a sign that at 1-0 up, you've got a penalty to go 2-0 up. Callum McGregor is still getting involved to let Hatate know maybe you need to drop in a bit deeper, maybe you need to drop wider. We don't know what the contents of that conversation was, but I thought that was a really positive sign. And the guys look integrated already to this Celtic team. The amount of hugs. Joe Hart went and saw Hatate at full time. Maeda had a few players around him. These guys are already, involved in this Celtic team, and it's the impact they've had tonight is incredible. But let's move on to the players who were already at Celtic and we've seen plenty of this season. Who do you feel you want to touch on?
Carl Starfelt.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say him, David. I knew you.
Unbelievable tonight. Absolutely unbelievable. I think he gets a shocking rap at times. I'm not talking from support, I'm talking from the media, I'm talking from pundits. It just seems to pick out Starfelt after a game in which he's had 2 or 3 loose passes. And all right, he might be a more nervous footballer than some others, but my goodness, he has had a lot more good Celtic performances than he's had bad. He gets stick after the cup final, a game we won, by the way. He gets stick after, I think maybe it was St Johnstone, a game we won comfortably again. But tonight, he was superb up against Nisbet, won everything. Absolutely everything.
He was really aggressive tonight, wasn't he?
I noticed that as well, I did see that.
Do you think that's something that's been said to him during the break? You need to maybe get... Because for me, Carl Starfelt is much better when he's aggressive. I think when he lets balls bounce, that's when, a bit of anxiety seems to kind of seep in.
I think he could have just been angry at being called out randomly. Players know these things. Of course they do. They're not totally oblivious to it, and I think he might have been made aware of it. I think maybe Andy's used it to challenge him. You don't really know, but he looked he looked angry tonight, didn't he?
Yeah.
He looked like a guy with a real point to prove. And for me personally, I don't think he necessarily had one. I think he's integrating fine. He's certainly not been the only cause of defensive issues. And over the first half of the season, he actually went on about a 4-month run of good form, which has been forgotten about, by the way. So I thought tonight he was fantastic. Nisbet, outside a clip in the post in the first couple of minutes, didn't get a sniff.
How much of a sitter was that, David? Because I've only seen it once.
Well, I mean, I thought it was poor. I think for a striker in Nisbet's quality, I thought it was a real sitter. I know some might say I think he took it with was it outside his right foot?
I felt like it was the outside of his right foot, yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Which is weird.
I don't know if he's surprised that it got to him, but for a striker where he is in that position, he should be getting excited for me, And I've actually lauded Nisbet in the past because I think he has a really good game, but that's a player whose confidence has been shot for me, and I think that showed tonight. He did not look interested in beating Carl Starfelt once he saw the appetite Carl had for the game. So I would say he really impressed me tonight. Just try to think the rest of the team now. Of course, I think Vickers again.
You could look at that whole back four, couldn't you? Because I mean, CCV Starfelt will rightly get plaudits tonight, but CCV just goes under the radar every week. He was just rock solid, just so secure. I thought the two fullbacks were excellent tonight as well. I thought Juranovic just ran the show. I just thought he was brilliant. He was everywhere tonight. He was up and down that wing non-stop. And I thought Greg Taylor's never going to be quite as much of a kind of end-to-end player as Juranovic, but I thought Greg Taylor was just really, really good tonight. Played in a lovely ball for what led to the second goal with the penalty being given. And I just thought those two were really good as well. You could go through the whole team. I think probably the only player who didn't perform tonight was maybe Tom Rogic. I thought he was just looked a little bit sluggish, but
yeah, the goal though.
Well, it's a fair point, but when you've got when you've got 9 other outfielders playing out their skin, you can afford to maybe not have Tom Rogic at his best. I didn't think he was awful or anything. I thought he had some really good moments. Second half he was good, but just by his lofty standards, he maybe just wasn't quite at the level he's shown. But that will come, absolutely no problems. And I think tonight the main thing was we got 3 points. That was the main thing. But I think it was important Celtic showed something tonight. Really, the fact that we were the first game back in the new year, and I know the reason is that Hibs play on Thursday night in the Scottish Cup, so kind of we got a bit of an advantage there, a chance to close the gap. I think it was important that we showed something tonight, and I think we definitely did. The second half wasn't great, but we'd done the job in the first half, and I think we showed tonight that Celtic are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the second half of the season. We've got 2, maybe 3 really, really good players. It's too early to say on Ideguchi, but 3 really good additions. We've got James Forrest back. We've got Jota back, who, by the way, got the loudest roar of the night when he came on. I've never heard a roar like that for a sub coming on. And you've still so many key players to come back. And I just thought Celtic were really, really good tonight. It would have been easy for Celtic to not start with that tempo and to be quite fractured, given the injuries we still have and the fact we had so many players coming back into the team. But I thought it was really impressive. The atmosphere was great, and it's kind of about as good as we could have hoped for tonight to go. Yeah,
and you were talking about the subs' impact. I don't think the Hibs defence were able to handle Giakoumakis when he came on either.
He was good.
It's
just another option, David. Like, we've got so many options now.
Yeah, but it's options from players who were being criticised in the past. Did you not have Giakoumakis doing last week as being one you can't really rely on? I can't remember that. But to be fair, tonight he showed great appetite. Didn't he get in the score sheet? I don't think he really came close to a goal or anything like that. But
he had one that was offside, didn't he?
But good physicality, held the ball up well. Hibs couldn't dominate him, and I thought that, like you say, just another option going forward for the manager. All of a sudden, like we said at the start of the video, you look at that squad now and you go, oh, I like the look of that. I like the look of that going into the second half of the season. I like the look of that 11 tonight, going to places like Tynecastle, Easter Road, Ibrox, and creating a lot of chances. So they'll get those opportunities down the line, and of course you don't want to go too overboard after a game, but it was brilliant tonight. Really was. Absolutely buzzing with that performance.
Can we get a smile?
See, that's why I don't smile, Hamish. It's too creepy. I just narrow my mouth. I just narrow it.
I loved it, mate. It kind of summed up. See, if you were to just get a wee photo of you next to the scoreboard, that would just tell you everything you need to know about this evening. I think we'll leave it there then. I'm trying to think if there's any other, points to raise. It's always difficult for me after these games doing it because I'm obviously using my phone to chat to you, and I would usually have my phone for some notes. So I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But I think the key points tonight were that so many players hit the ground running. Giakoumakis hasn't played in how long, came on, looked great. Jota just looked brilliant when he came on as well. Players we haven't seen in a while, obviously the new signings as well. So I just think it's really positive going forward. We've cut the gap to 3 points. And for the first time in a while, we put a bit of pressure on Rangers tomorrow night. They go to Aberdeen. Probably still expect them to win that because, they've shown consistency and Aberdeen have had, as much as they've picked up a little bit of form before the break, they've still had their troubles this season. But for the first time in a while, a bit of pressure on them. It's only 3 points. If they drop any points, with a game to come here at Celtic Park, the pressure's right on. And we can just watch that knowing that we're doing nicely. Final thoughts, mate?
Aye, well, listen, Rangers will drop points. They will do somewhere in games that aren't against Celtic. It's going to come at some stage. We've seen how they performed before the winter break. They had a few decisions that bailed them out in a couple of those games in December. They won't get that every week, fingers crossed. So we just focus on our job, and if we put in performances like tonight and go on this run that we need to go on, they'll collapse, certain of it.
I think Maeda, by the way, was pretty good tonight. I thought he was far more direct than he's been for a while. So
just comes
positive
back for
stuff. Definitely. Right, we're going to leave it there. We're also going to leave it there for a couple of days on the channel. I've somehow managed to wangle a couple of days off. I'm away to Arran tomorrow for absolutely nobody that cares. So no video tomorrow. We do have an interesting video coming on Wednesday night with a wee look at a couple of our Lone Stars that are way down playing in England this season, a wee bit of insight on them. So that'll hopefully satisfy you until we're back fully on Thursday, when I believe we'll have Jackie McNamara back on the channel as we look back on tonight and also ahead to the Alloa game on Saturday evening. So, David, thanks again, mate, for joining us. People can read your thoughts on 67hailhail.com, and we'll leave it there for now. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Take care, and hail hail.